Well, our next guest on the Beyond the Flags podcast pilots Friesen Performance IMCA Modified number 11X on a normal basis. He's originally out of Medford, Oregon, now living in Marshalltown, Iowa. Last weekend, he raced for Jason and Tammy Bolio for the team based out of the Pacific province of British Columbia, Canada, and they won the $10,000 to win Skagit Aggregates Survive the 55 in Washington. We're talking about Tom Berry Jr., his national title in 2020, winning Super Nationals, the Harris Clash, and the Dakota Classic Mod Tour all in 1 year in 2022, and his journey from being in Oregon to racing in the Midwest. That's coming up next. But before we get to the interview, make sure wherever you're listening or watching from, you hit the like button and subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes. Well, he's coming off of a cool $10,000 victory last Saturday night at Skagit Speedway for the Skagit Aggregates Survive the 55. Originally from Medford, Oregon, now residing in Marshalltown, Iowa, Tom Berry Jr. Tom, wow, was it good to be back in the Pacific Northwest for a little bit and take a lot of money?
Yeah, it was ended up working out really well, and we had fun. Kind of got the old stomping grounds feel. It was pretty fast and giddy up the first night, and then the second night they hit the track right on the money for what we had, and ended up being a really good racetrack. And to be honest, I figured there was going to be some more cautions, and it went the whole feature went pretty smooth. So I was pretty impressed.
It was really impressive to see you just work some magic in traffic. First getting around Kyle Strickler when you guys hit some heavy congestion, and then getting snug up with Nick Trenchard, a guy that you grew up racing against.
Yeah, no, it was fun. Like I said, I had saved Nick a spot, and we've been good buddies for forever now, and we parked next to each other and kind of just talked about the track and hung out, and it was a good time. And he had, I think he actually called me today, and his front brakes, the right front, was leaking oil out of the brake caliper. So he said he lost front brake. So, kind of sucks for him to see that. He had a pretty good car early on, and, he just, it was, I feel like for him too, running against me and Kyle, and, I feel like he's one of the top, Northwest runners, around, and I think for him to run third was pretty good. He doesn't get me Kyle, so for that it's pretty good.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was really impressive for him to put it on the podium. Talking about that race a little bit more, obviously you get the lead, they have the stoppage break, and then you guys go after it, and it's about 10 to go, and the caution comes out, and for you, is that a bit of a relief of a moment there? Because it kind of eliminated heavy lap traffic being in the mix.
Yeah, it definitely, I was not that I get too nervous in lap traffic, but being it's not my own car, and, I haven't raced, in the West Coast so long, you just don't know how to race certain guys, and out here I race against enough of them. I kind of can predict them and know more what their likelihood of doing something is. So it's hard to make sure you keep the nose clean. And it definitely was a relief when I got caution, when normally when you're leading something like that, you don't really want a caution. But, another thing is the track was the most bizarre track. It was kind of like going to Volusia in Florida. You get a caution, and I don't know if we're so close to the tide or what, but it's like the track would pump up as soon as the caution would come out. So you would go 3-4 laps under a caution, and then you take the green again, the track would be back kind of sticky again for 2-3 laps, and then it'd start blowing off. And it was just very hard to know where you had to be and what you had to do. And I kind of knew where I had to be just because when I fell back to third on that initial start we had on the green flag, I was mainly just searching as I fell back as far as I did, just to know where I had to be and know what I had to do at the end of the race. So.
Well, and talking about not being in your own car, Jason and Tammy Bolio from Campbell River, British Columbia, hiring you, what was that process like? I know that you've raced with the Bolios over the years, and how'd that conversation go to get you hired? Because it kind of seemed like it was a late official decision that you were going to be able to come out.
Yeah, it was, I want to say I was up on top of the roof on our shop working on the roof, and Jason called me. It was or actually Chris Folio's son called me. It was like, I think it was like 5 at night on Wednesday. And so we got it finished up, and I drove for Jason last year at I think it was called like it was like Turkey Night or something at Kokopah in Yuma.
Yeah.
And I won both nights that last year, and that was with Chris's car, the one Chris was in. And so I've been in one of their cars and won, and it was just something how good of a car David Stremme at Lethal Chassis built. Just I've popped in, I think it's like the 7th car this year I've won in, besides like mine. So just goes to show you, like, they're so consistent and nothing really changes. That was just pretty cool that you can hop in something like that and do that just out of nowhere. And for me, like, you can ask them, even they were like, well, you want to do anything in the car? And I checked a few measurements, and I was like, I'm just going to get in and drive it, see what it feels like. And I made really one adjustment all weekend. And like I said, for not knowing the track, never racing it, and not being on that's more of a bull ring track compared to what we run on out here. For not doing a whole lot, we had a hell of a showing. So,
yeah, super cool. And I noticed that it was, you're really good in Lethal Chassis, and for you make that transition, it probably was just like putting on a new glove, and it fit. Yeah,
that's good. That's another good thing is, being there. So every other car I've ever had to drive, you always got to throw something different at them. It seems like, for even if you're in the same year car and it's just a different, one maybe built 5 cars later, you just always seem like you're throwing something a little different at it. And for these, it's more just like, it's like a family member. You're used to them. So a car, you get a bond with each car you drive. And so that's really all you got to gain is the confidence in the car. And I got in it, and the seat fit pretty good, and everything fit pretty good to where I was pretty confident right out of the gate with it. And so I think I was able to build confidence pretty quick, and that just helped me out, overall. So.
Well, for people that don't know your racing story, originally from Medford, Southern Oregon, your start to racing, I remember first meeting you and your dad when you were racing cage karts at Salem Indoor Speedway. I think you started, in the 250s?
I started in box stock, but when I met you, it would have been, where were you saying we met at? In
Salem? At the
Salem, yeah. Yeah, so I would have been in the 250, I think, then, the 250 class. But I started when I was 8 in a box stock and kind of moved up. I've always been a bigger guy, and I was pretty chubby when I was younger. And just go-karts, power to weight ratio, we always lacked the power for the weight I weighed. So we made pretty quick transitions. I went box stock for like, I don't even know, maybe 6 nights. And then the next year I was in 125, and I think we barely even made it a season in the 125, went to 250. Then that's when I started winning a good amount of races in 250. And then the 500, obviously you got a lot better competition, and so we were winning, but, not a crazy amount. And, just made our transition. Then finally my dad said if I can turn a better lap than him in his asphalt car, which we turned it over to dirt at the time, that I'd get the ride. And so I ended up getting a better lap time than him. I took the ride over, and kind of just over the years, you've watched me since growing up.
Sure.
It wasn't like I was the guy to beat for a long time. I mean, I blood, sweat, and tears. I worked my way from wrecking to not wrecking to getting a little speed, and just built up over the years of just smoother, faster, better. And that was another thing is hooking up with one of my main sponsors on my car, that Brodell Trucking. He kind of gave me all the tools to be successful. After my dad passed away, he was kind of just hopped in my life at the right time, and just got me in the right equipment, and then I was able to meet the right people, being in the right equipment, and then the right parts, and you name it. And then I just got in the right part of the country, moving to the Midwest. I lived in North Dakota for a few years, and Iowa for I think 5 years now or something. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of all lined up. My grandma always told me stars got to align if it's meant to be, and I don't know if I guess they've aligned pretty well so far. And just kind of letting my path take me where my destiny is, I guess.
No doubt. And you know, you touched on it, your dad passing away. That was just no doubt a titanic blow to you, because when that happened, you were still a young man, and here you were trying to transition to racing in the Midwest. And the easiest thing, I think, you know, hindsight's 2020 for a lot of people would be, that's it. You know, I'm just going to go home, just do the normal day in and out. But you put your nose to the grindstone. It seemed like work harder, honed your craft. And there's no doubt that your father's proud of you.
Yeah, I definitely, he had a bad, not I think what he was given, but he had a lot of bad traits, I would say, in my mind, of certain things, like not owning up to your mistakes sometimes, or, you know, outworking another person. My dad was a very hard worker, but when it came to racing, he got out of it for so long. When we started racing, he was like already, I want to say around 50 or a little older than 50. So when we got into it, you know, obviously racing is a time-consuming sport with at the racetrack or working on cars or whatever. And he was just at the point of his life, he didn't have the energy or the willpower to work that hard. And so I kind of picked up that trait of, you know, saying, oh, I'm getting out budget or out this and out that. And a lot of it was budget, but at the end of the day, it was the willpower to just outwork everyone. And when I met Brian Brodell, the Brodell Trucking, he's a very, very, very hard worker. And when I moved up and lived lived in a house next to him and worked out of his shop, I got to see how much harder you could actually work. And just like I said, Brian kind of revamped me in a way. You know, there was things they always called my dad the MacGyver, where if you were ever like stuck in the desert or something, like my dad was the guy that like get you out, like we were going to find a way to MacGyver some kind of, you know, if the motor blew up or whatever, you get out. But it wasn't always the right way to do things. So when I met Brian, I got to learn, you know, Loctite, silicone, you know, tie wire, like things that you won't have for mechanical failure. And to be honest, I can't remember the last time I had a failure, which, like I said, I have really good equipment and things do break, but to be out of a race because I broke something that was my fault, it's been a very, very long time. And that was from Brodell just teaching me the ropes and knowing how to work on things correctly. And if you don't have the time to do it, don't even start, just wait till the next day. And it was a grind. Like I said, it was 2-3 years of him training me and breaking bad habits. And I kind of just took them along with me now to Iowa. And like I said, bought my own house, bought a building here this year. And just like I said, over a 7-year period, I remember I was just telling a story I had when I left. After my dad passed away, I left Oregon, where I lived with my sisters, and I had $2,000 in my bank account, and I left North Dakota with my girlfriend, which was his daughter, and just got a job and started working hard and saving money, putting money away, and then now we're here where, you know, I bought a house and bought a building and, you know, race pretty much full time and have a few companies, and things are on its way up. You look at it, 7 years really, it seems like a long time being the person behind it, but then you look at 7 years and it's really not that long. So it's kind of crazy where I've ended up in, I guess, a short period of time in my head.
Yeah, I was going to say, I definitely see that work ethic shine on when, you know, whether I'm in North Dakota or in Iowa, you're always working on stuff, whether it's working on shocks or working on your tires or working under the race car. I always feel bad when I have to get an interview from you, even now, because I know you're such a busy guy and your focus is so much on trying to get better and trying to just finesse every single thing that you can.
Yeah, and that's like, you know, you touch on trying to be better. You know, there's lots of races that, you know, I win by a big, you know, gap. And I've learned that over the years, and even just why lethal chassis has been such a good deal is the biggest thing, you know, a good car is a good car, but at the end of the day, you have to have the right person behind you. And working with David Stremme that owns Lethal, he's so meticulous, and it's like I remember I won Deer Creek earlier this year, and it was like I think a 2-second lead or whatever, and I couldn't even get out of my car, and he's like, how could you been better? And I'm like, dude, like I just won, like chill out, like I need to let me get out of my suit at least and give me a second. And like he's just he wants to. It don't even matter if it's him. He wants to win and make his brand the best brand in the country, and that's what I strive for. So like, not that other companies haven't done that, but they're just not, I guess, at the same mindset that I've been at my whole life, to where it's just like you have to just drive for better as much as you can. And I finally, I guess, have matched that the same soul, I guess, as me, where David's super driven, and we've just worked really well together, and we're always constantly trying to get better and better. And he's really smart with shocks and cars, and so we're both, what's cool is David got to actually meet my dad when Jason Bolio just started working with Lethal in Vegas. And so what's cool is David's got to see, honestly, where I came from, and he knew the equipment I had, it was just old parts, barely making it to the track, trying just to do as good as we can. And that's why he helps me out as much as he does, because he knows my background, and he knows it just wasn't like handed to me, or I'm the golden child. And like I've had a really good life, but a lot of people oversee as a racing program where I came from, and what I was handed to me and what I have now. And so it's just cool. He got to see that for the most part over the years, and so he really respects me and my decisions. And there's times, I tell him no on certain things, and there's times he tells me no, and we kind of just have the same mindset and morals, to where we tend to be honest, so we don't ever butt heads. We're always thinking of the same ideas. So it just, I don't know, everything just clicks, and it's really easy and fun to work with him. And like I said, I think it's taken my race program to the next level over the last year and a half.
It seems like you really hit that next level. You talked about, working in North Dakota, honing your craft, and it took a little bit of time. About 2019 is what I would say, outside looking in, to pinpoint where things were really starting to come together. You won the Razor Chassis North Central Region, you won the Dakota Classic Mod Tour, and you won track championships at Nodak and Mandan, Dakota Speedway. It really seemed like things were really hitting, and also the night of 10,000 stars at Hancock Speedway. Like that year really got you taken off in a really good trajectory.
Yeah. Like you said, in 18, I won, I think it was like 6 or 7 races, and I beat Grabowski at Beatrice Speedway at the end of the year. And that kind of, what was tough is, when my dad passed away, obviously we were like best friends. It took me all of 17 and pretty much 18 to finally, like, I was honestly in 17 and 18, I was just trying to make it day by day. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know how long I wanted to do it. And I got through 18, and I don't know, just something clicked. Like in the middle of winter, I'm like, man, I want to do this for me, and I want to do it for my dad, so that I can, make it somewhere. And so at that time, I've been building up money with working at my work and saving money, and Brodell Trucking, backing me, and we bought our first new car together. Me and him split it, and like I said, it just kind of, that was really my year of just my first new full car. I mean, motor, you name it, header, seat, wheels. I mean, you name it. The car was like the best I've ever had, and obviously showed right out of the gate. We started winning, and the season's not as long up in North Dakota, so I think we ended up like 13 wins that year. And honestly, we probably could have ended up with 20 if it would have been, living in Iowa, where you could race about double the amount of time. So, like I said, 19 was the year you hit it right on. It kind of was I think my mental state was there, and also my equipment and everything was lined up in there, and the whole game plan went together. And like I said, it just kind of ripple effect from there on out. We kept building and building every year, it seems like.
Well, and then 20 was a special year too, because while the whole world was just in just a stupor, we'll just say, of confusion and the unknown, and racing took a little bit of time off when it normally wouldn't, with COVID breaking out, you really punched back and built off of the success in 2019, winning the national championship, again winning the North Central region, and then winning the championship at Marshalltown, where you live now, in Stewart, and also winning the Iowa State Championship. It seemed like 2020 was taking that next step up the proverbial staircase or ladder.
Yeah, so one of my best friends, Colby Reed, that helped me win the national championship and helped me win a lot of other races too, but we were at Marshalltown, and obviously the national championship, it's very difficult you have a certain amount of starts, and you got to get a certain amount of wins, and on top of that, you got to win a few track championships. And so you can't just say at the end of the year, I'm going to run for a national championship and win it, because you just don't know. And I want to say we were on about win number, I don't know, 5 or 6, and we were at Marshalltown in a heat race, big pile up. I got watered up. It bent the rear end, like all kind of shit. I was out of contention. And Colby's like, "Yeah, you want to fix this?" I said, and I was just pissed off. I was cussing. I was yelling. I'm like, "Load this thing up. I'm getting out of here." And so we loaded up. By the time we got my car loaded up, it started storming. And out of nowhere, the lights went out. And they could not get the lights fixed. And so they canceled the night. And we had to make up. And when they canceled, it was like me, Colby, his dad, Toad, and his sister, Jensen. We were all sitting in the pickup, I remember. Maybe even Colby's wife, Rachel. We were all sitting in the pickup, leaving the track. And they're like, "Man, we gotta do this for your dad." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, we just all had like a goosebump feeling. Like, we're like, how in the hell? Like, we got wrecked. We had no other chance to make it out for the feature that night. Mm-hmm. And the grace of God, or whatever you want to say, that night got canceled. And so it was like, it's just like it's meant to be. And so we kind of based that night off like, man, let's do it. Let's do it for senior. And Colby, he's still working at the same place he was then. He was working 40-hour weeks, sometimes more. I was working 30 to 40-hour weeks at my job. And I mean, it beat us up. I mean, 3 days a week, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, and then working full time. It was honestly it took an army. There was nights Colby was tired or whatever, and he'd show up late, and his dad would come with me, or his sister, and it took 5-6 people to hone in. And I guess when someone was not 100, that other person had to pick up that percentage. So if I was down to 50%, maybe Colby and his dad would pick up the other 50, and we just locked in, and that, like I said, it just was crazy. Everything lined up, and I think by the end of the year, my head was so determined. All the hard work and effort. It was like nobody was in my head. Wherever we showed up, I'm like, nobody's beating me, because nobody wants it as bad as I do. Like, in my head, I'm like, I just want it so bad. Like, unless I get wrecked, it's over every night. And it kind of was like that. It was pretty crazy.
Well, and what was even crazier is you fast forward a couple years, 2022. You pull something off that's very hard to do, and I call it the Holy Trinity. You win the Harris Clash, you win the Dakota Classic Modified Tour in extremely dominating fashion, and then Super Nationals. That's obviously that's super hard, and it's been seldomly done. But it's an incredible feat if you're able to pull it off.
Yeah, that whole year was just insane. I hired one of my good buddies, Austin Hemmond. He works for Bobby Pierce now. I hired him full time, and I didn't really know. I quit my job in March, working for Fleck Trucking, and I told him, I just kind of wanted to pursue my shocks, and I just wanted to pursue racing, because I was getting to the point. I'm not old, but I'm turning 30 next year, and I was to the point where I'm just like, I'm beat. Like, I can't work full time and race this hard. Like, it was killing either my buddies or me, and just my body and everything. I was like, I can't. I got to see if I can make it without a job. And so I just, like I said, I started trying to sell shocks and doing what I could, and kind of just letting instinct take over. And it was like every time I showed up the track, like I was hungry. Like David Stremme says, I was so hungry, because you just know you gotta win to pay the bills. And I, kind of like the Ricky Thornton deal. He comes out here with an open trailer, and it's like, you want to stay out and race, you got to win. So it was like, do you want to run third and go home, or get another job, or keep winning and not get a job? So I kind of was like it was a one-way street, and I'm like, I got to win. So it was just almost every night we unloaded that year. Like I said, it was 70, I think it was 73% winning percentage I had. And it was incredible. And then, we got to the end of the year, and I never won Vegas. And you obviously know, me and my dad went for, I don't even know, seven years of, really at that point, I wasn't the guy to win Vegas. I wasn't capable of it, but we went, and I knew I was capable of winning it. And I'm like, man, that's the one race that I've really wanted to win. Just it's obviously in a very cool spot in Vegas, and then just my dad, we dreamed about that race. Living on the West Coast, that's like your Super Nationals is Vegas, and all the West Coasters, they think about that. Like everything you race for all year, you think about Vegas. Like, man, could I win Vegas? And so it was like, I gotta go do that. And we ended up winning Vegas too. And just kind of, I don't know, just pretty crazy that year.
So for people don't know, are you looking to find that adrenaline rush, but you can't because you're not at the racetrack? Well, check out the IMCA TV Replay subscription library to have access to thousands of hours of racing for just $24.99 a month. Relive all the moments of the Speedway Motors IMCA Super Nationals fueled by Casey's at Boone Speedway, the Harris Clash at Deer Creek Speedway in Spring Valley, Minnesota, the IMCA TV Winter Nationals at Cocopah Speedway in Somerton, Arizona, Florida's Clash on the Coast, and dozens of Speedway Motors IMCA weekly racing program racetracks from across the nation, as well as the IMCA TV Dirtcast podcast. Plus, 25% of that $24.99 monthly fee goes towards the Drivers Point Fund and is a great way to help out your local racers. In 2023, over $97,000 was paid out to IMCA drivers directly at over 50 racetracks across the country. Please note that live broadcasts are not part of the replay subscription. That's IMCA TV. IMCA TV, where America comes to watch racing. 11X, that's your number. The story of that number for people that don't know that story.
So my dad, growing up, was 111 on his motorcycles, and he switched, before he turned pro, he switched to 11X, and the reason for that is all the motorcycle riders in the Orange County area, so like LA, that's where my family is originally from, Southern California. If you were from that area, most of the people would always have an X after their number, because that would just signify that you were like Orange County, LA area as a rider. So I don't know where that got lost. Obviously, I think now people just throw a Y or a L or whatever their name, the first letter of their name is normally. But back then, I think a lot of the letters at the end of the number was like where you were from in a way. So we just, my dad got out of racing for, well, it must have been almost 20 years he got out of racing, and he got back in. My youngest sister was really like just going back through pictures of his motorcycle racing, and she and him just decided, that was like the number that they liked the most, and so they just stuck with it, and he went with 11X. And then me growing up, my dad was my superhero, or the guy I looked up to, and I'm like, that's the number I want to be. So I just ended up keeping it, and that's where we roll from.
I remember one of the first times seeing you in a modified, you guys, and correct me if I get this story wrong, you guys basically built your own a BRE, right? That's what you called it?
Yep, BRE chassis, which is Barry Racing Enterprises. We bought, so what's crazy is you might even know him, Randy Ward is his name. He's from Elma, Washington, or right outside of Elma. He raced for years up there. And I met him through a friend from our town, Rick Rapp, and we had met up, and he said, we were just going over the stories. I hadn't talked to him in probably 5 years. I called him on Thursday last week to tell him I was coming out to Washington. I said, hey, I don't know how far you live from here, but if you want to come out and watch, and we'll kind of catch up. And he's like, man, he goes, honestly, I thought you forgot about me, and not even in a bad way. He's like, just, you know, what you've done and where you've gone. He's like, I didn't even think you remembered me. I said, no. I said, I always remember real people, and people that treat me right, you know, they'll always stay in my head. So anyways, he ended up coming Saturday, and we bullshitted in the trailer for a while, and we were telling all these crazy stories, and my dad just had wild things. We always had bright colors when he was growing up. Red, yellow, and blue were his colors. So our motorhome was painted red, yellow, and blue. Our jet skis, our boats, and we showed up to Wally's house on the lake. I couldn't even tell you where it's at. He would know, but we showed up to his lake house where he lives in a red, yellow, and blue 30-year-old motorhome and an enclosed trailer, and we parked there. And he said he was coming home from work, and my dad, the barbecue fell over somehow, and it caught my dad had this grass turf that he put out, caught it on fire, and it was smoking in his front yard. And Wally called Rick Rapp and said, whoever these guys are that you got me to bring up here, he goes, they're freaking crazy. You know, they ain't coming back next year. And he said from that year on, it's like every year it got better. And he said, we finally got a bigger motorhome and trailer, and we couldn't fit in his property. And he said, and he went from being, you know, happy we were gone to sad we couldn't show up. So, like I said, it just, he was one of the good old boys. And, man, just, I don't know, it's crazy where things go. And he ended up selling me I had a leaf spring car from Oregon, but I would consider the car, Randy who sold us was like my first real, you know, 4-link suspension, pretty a newer car. It was like maybe 4 or 5 years old at the time, and got that car. And then, you know, I think we raced it for 2 years. Over the 2 years, obviously, it was just getting wore out, and it was cracking, and parts were wearing out. And my dad came up to me. We were actually in Vegas, and he's like, what do you think about building the car? And I was like, oh, I mean, that's your call. Like, I don't know. I'll help you. I don't know where to start. And he's like, well, I've been looking, and he's like, I know we can't afford a new name brand car. And he's like, the only way we're going to get something new is we build it. So we kind of just got home after Vegas and started tubing and bending it. Like, we've always, you know, growing up, we were always fabricating. My dad built houses. So more or less, you know, coming up with a game plan or how to start. My dad knew measurements and everything like that, and knew what we had to do. Is just more or less doing it. So we just got to it. And I remember a couple days after school, I was lifting weights, and he's like, we ain't gonna get this done if you're not working. And so we made like a dedication. He said, every day you got to do one thing a day. It don't matter if you weld a tube in the car, bend a tube, but one thing had to be done every day. So every day I get out of school, we either bend a tube and weld it in the car, or bend a bunch of tubing up that we needed to get done, and then we'd weld the next day. But every day got something done. And by the season, we started with my first car, and we built 3. And the last one I wrecked out here in North Dakota, and it was obviously it's junk after I wrecked it. You couldn't fix it. So that's when I bought my first like real new factory car, which was a Razor at the time, Razor Elite. And that's kind of how we got started, not, you know, building our own stuff, and just kept it that way. It's a lot of work to build them, and you don't have the R&D and the time, and it was just one of them deals that kind of worked out where we got out of our own stuff and started doing our stuff. So,
well, we're gonna have you put your tourism hat on for a second. Living in Marshalltown, Iowa now. If somebody rolls in, they've never been there before, what do you suggest they do, or some good places to go to eat?
Well, you know, probably 2 things or 3 things I like, and that's food, racing, and working out. So the food department, you did good. I'm a big sandwich guy, so I can eat a sandwich about every day. I would go to Sub City in Marshalltown, and if you're not big on sandwiches, I would go to Legends Bar and Grill, which is in town. They have like good like steaks, salads, whatever, pretty much whatever American food you want. And then if you happen to be here on a Thursday night, you got to go to the Haverhill Bar. It's the Haverhill Social Club, and it's about 10 minutes south of Marshalltown. There's like 5 houses in this town, and they make homemade pizza, and they make really good wings. So pizza and wing night on Thursday.
Awesome.
Other than that, I mean, I would say the go-to in Marshalltown would be, if you're trying to have fun, go to the racetrack. really, man, I'm trying to think if I've done anything else really since I moved here. All I've really done is worked and raced, but I'm sure there's more things. Golf. I guess I've golfed. There's some good golf courses in Marshalltown. I guess golfing.
Okay, I was gonna say, have you went to because Marshalltown Speedway at the Central Iowa State Fairgrounds, is the fair any good there?
So they're kind of having it right now, but see, they do it. They do the it's called like the Harvest Hustle or something, or the Harvest October. I don't know what it's called, but it's actually in downtown right now. They have like, I don't know, maybe 4 little rides and those catering trucks or whatever, with different foods, fair food trucks. I'd say it's pretty small. If you're really wanting to do something, you'd come for the Iowa State Fair in Des Moines, in August.
Mm-hmm.
would be the best. But I mean, the little fairs ain't bad, but obviously when you do something, or like for me living in Oregon, the fairs are really big. There's big roller coasters and you name it. Once you it's like going to Supernational. Once you go to Supernationals, a weekly show, it's like hard to adjust because you're like, well, I just went to like something so crazy. It's like,
yeah.
So, you finally see something bigger and better. It's not as fun, I guess you'd call it, when you go back to something smaller, just because you got to see what something that crazy could be.
Yeah, an 18-hour race in one day versus a 3-hour program.
Oh yeah, that's the toughest week of the year, and people that want to do it, it's a great event. But I think everyone, when they're done, just knows, like, holy cow, I just made it through a week of that, and I don't even want to see a racetrack for a month.
Yeah, exactly. So what's really cool about you, and there may be some folks that don't know this, is you've got a chance to have some people from the West Coast kind of hang out and live with you, Joe Peterson, and then Trevor's out there, right? Trevor Fitz.
Yeah. He's
just been doing great this season.
Yeah, he just got a 5,000 to win race, I want to say 2 weeks ago at Davenport Speedway over in the east side of Iowa. And yeah, Trevor Fitz and Joe live together. They live probably 3 miles from me, 4 miles.
Okay.
They live on the west side of town. I live on the east side of town. And Joe hangs out with me quite a bit. That's kind of the reason he moved out. Trevor, at that point, I was living in an apartment in Des Moines, so I didn't have any space capable for Joe to move in. So Joe ended up moving with Trevor, and it's been good, and they get along really well. And Joe will help Trevor when he gets time. But for the most part, me and Joe it's about 24/7, really. Either he's racing with me, or we're grilling food, or we're gym buddies. So I got him back going to the gym. He kind of took I think he said, like, really when COVID started, he got out of working out. So probably 3-4 year hiatus, and he moved out here, and I got him going into the gym. And so now we're pretty dedicated at that because we both hold each other accountable. And it's been good. Joe, I think he enjoys it. He's definitely not used to the cold. It was crazy because he said, like, in the Bay where he's from, in the morning it's not super hot. You get up, 5-6 a.m. It's like 60 degrees. It's not hot. Well, he didn't realize, him working at UPS right now, it could be 2-3 a.m. And in the middle of summer, it'll be 90 degrees and 80% humidity at 3 a.m. where you walk out your house, you're sweating.
Sure. And
so that was kind of getting used to it. But then obviously you have the turn where the wintertime, it's negative 20 sometimes. So
yeah. So he's a hurting unit sometimes.
Oh yeah, I'm not a big winter guy. I love winter sports, like I love snow skiing, but in Oregon, it's like 15 degrees on the mountain. So you bundle up with a coat and nice pants. I mean, you're sweating. Mm-hmm. Well, out here you could bundle up all you want, negative 20 outside working or whatever doing. It's freezing. It's miserable. So
yeah.
There's different. You kind of get more homebody in the Midwest when wintertime comes. You kind of start maybe video gaming or doing more inside activities, I guess. More Netflix and watching TV and stuff. Just more of a slower pace than the West Coast.
Sure. No, that's understandable. For people that want to follow you along, or perhaps want to contribute, perhaps through apparel, you got t-shirts and sweatshirts for sale. Or what's the best way for folks on social media or on the internet to follow you?
The best way is just go to Tom Berry Jr. on my racing page on Facebook. In my bio, or like where it says about me, it'll have a link to my Shopify website, and it has, like I said, my hats, shirts, hoodies, long sleeves, anything that I have available is on there. Pretty much just click what you want, you pay, and then it sends me an order, and then I just make a label and pack it up and ship it out. So it's pretty simple. There's pictures on there, so you see what you're kind of getting, and usually I have some kind of description of what the shirt is, if it's like a dry fit or just a regular Gildan brand. Yeah, like I said, you can follow me, Tom Berry, on Instagram or Facebook, Tom Berry Jr., and I have a Twitter account too, and we got pretty much all the socials, TikTok, you name it.
Awesome. And something I forgot to ask, the inspiration for this year's paint scheme, or wrap scheme, I should say, it seems a bit different. I know during the Dakota Classic Modified Tour, Nick Holberg was referenced as like the Harvey Two-Face from Batman kind of look.
Yeah. So in 2020, I had that pretty iconic breast cancer wrap, the pink and gray, and that really popped. And that was for my best friend Colby. His mom, years before that, passed away of breast cancer. So we did that wrap, and Colby's always so. You'll notice when I have a really, really nice, badass car, like at the beginning of the year, it's normally Colby dreams something up, he designs it on paper, and then he sends it to my graphics guy, and they do it. And then my normal wraps, nothing, they still look good, but there's not as much thought in them. You'll see how one wrap will be like very, very cool, and then one will be, just look normal and cool or whatever. And so this winter, Colby's cousin Blake got diagnosed with brain cancer, and so he came up to me like, "Hey man," he's like, and I knew at this point Blake had brain cancer, and he's like, "I'd really like to do something for him, and you think you'd want to do it?" I said, "Heck yeah!" I said, "Draw it up." And so in 2020, we had an idea to do a half and half car, and it was going to be half blue, I think, and half red. Well, then Caden Reynolds, that runs a stock car out here, he ended up doing a blue and pink, I believe. And we were like, well, and we didn't want to like copy or, where I just never been that way. So we kind of just took the L on that wrap kind of and just moved on. Well, then been, 3-4 years now since Caden did that wrap. And so he decided, he's like, I've been really wanting to do a gray and white split. And so he designed it up and sent it to my graphics guy, Sweet Graphics, and they brought it up. And then, like I said, I had ribbons for sale, and we put ribbons on the car for whoever bought them, and then whatever the proceeds are. I still got to pay Blake. I got to add it up, but they're not really in a big rush on it. Just wanted to try to help raise some money for him and his family. He's got 2 kids and a wife. So, and so that's kind of how it is. And I got just to keep everyone informed, I got a pretty badass, iconic wrap that's going to come out again for next year. I've already got the idea, and Joe kind of helped me come up with it, and I'll have Colby design it, and it should be a pretty cool wrap.
That's awesome. Yeah, I noticed that everything that you do is mint and top notch for sure.
Yeah, I just try to, I feel like my dad, like growing up, I remember I got in trouble in school, a good amount when I was younger, and the teacher would be, say stuff, and he's like, and not in a bad way, but he's like, I raised a leader, not a sheep, not a follower. And so I've just always been big on, like building my brand, I guess you call it. And when you just do the average Joe, normal, not a bunch of effort, not a bunch of thought, you get the average Joe, the likes, the comments, the publicity is average. So, I just try to go above and beyond, and it's definitely worked for me. It's built a very successful name and brand behind me, and I have a lot of good feedback.
Well, I know that time is important to you, and as we kind of wrap things up, I do want to give you the floor to have a chance to thank people that have made things possible, And obviously your sponsors and supporters, because you've got a great group of people that are making sure that you're able to compete night in, night out, week in, week out at an elite level.
Yeah, like I said, the first guy I probably have to think would be Bruno Trucking. Without him keeping me rolling, I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at today. Good friend from Oregon, the Ritchie family, Jeremy and Lisa for helping me out, Donkey Heating and Air. Mike Whittlestat, he owns my crate car and keeps me in top-notch equipment. So Graveyard Auto and Towing, appreciate you. Paul and Jill Stone, they've been a big supporter the last 3 years, I think. And then David Stremme and Ashley Stremme with Lethal Chassis. And then pretty much just all my product sponsors or people that help out throughout the year: Reflect Trucking, Swift Springs, Walker Filtration, Total Power, Tire Demon, AFCO Racing Products, Penske Shocks, Supreme Land and Landscaping, All Star Performance, Dirt Stars Racing Products, Precision Hydraulic and Oil with Joe, Scott and Lisa, Velocita, Noonan Productions, Klein Auto Nation Crates, Fast Chaps, man, there's so much. Hooker Harness, Jones Racing Pulleys, Where's Machine, and if I miss anyone else, Bassett Wheels, if I miss anyone else, like I said, it's been a dream come true so far, and I don't think we're settled yet. We're dabbling on the late model stuff, so hopefully we can keep climbing the mountain.
Awesome. Well, it's always a pleasure to talk with you, Tom, and it's always a great conversation, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
All right. Well, it was nice seeing you, and like I said, maybe, who knows, I'm going to try to convince Jason maybe let me roll out to Vegas. We'll see, and maybe I'll see you out there, or we'll see you somewhere. Are you going to be in Yuma for the Winter Nationals?
Yes, sir.
Well, we'll see. I might make it out there and drive for someone. We'll see. If not, I'm sure I'll see you down the road somewhere.
Well, we need to get you out here for a cameo for Speed Week too, for the IMCA Wild West Speed Week. So maybe Jason can free the calendar up too.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool to. I think 2000. I want to say 12. Was it the first year was 12? I think, or 11.
11.
That was the last time.
Yeah.
I think the last time I ever ran, I ran the full thing. So that's, what is that? That's 9 plus 4, so 13 years ago. That's crazy. Yeah,
we gotta break that streak at some point. So
yeah, we'll have to figure it out. Like I said, maybe like I said, Jason's been a big help, and he's supports me too. I've known him forever, so maybe I can hop in one of his rides.
All right. Well, looking forward to it. I hope. Obviously, some racing still left to do this year, but hopefully we'll be seeing you in January.
Sounds good, buddy. I appreciate the call.
Well, race fans, that does it for this interview. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that you continue to enjoy these upcoming interviews. We appreciate it if you would like and subscribe wherever you're listening, whether it's on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever it's at. Give us a like and give us a subscription so that we can deliver more of these great interviews to you for your listening pleasure. In the meantime, wherever we're at, wherever you're listening, we hope you have a great rest of your day and a pleasant evening, and we will see you soon here at Highside Racing Promotions.